Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And this one is dated year 4 blog 15, or in legacy numbers, blog number 171. And it's dated, oh my god, it's the first of the month, 1st of, what's that, June 2025. I had to think then for a moment. Yeah, glad you're all here watching this. I'm looking out and it's quite a sunny day today. I've had a week off and the weather has been awful at the beginning. Better now I'm going back to work tomorrow. Go figure. How many times does that happen to you, by the way? You know, you plan your holiday, right? You go, oh, do you know what? I'll have it a little bit later on in the year. I won't have it so early. And I'll have one sort of like late summer. Might have an Indian summer, you never know. They call it an Indian summer. Every time it rains. You got to expect it in the UK, but you know that's happened to me all through my working life, I have to say. Never really noticed it much at school, but I digress a little bit. We have a format, and I usually do the news. So I'll do the news right now, and we start off with the war. And the reason that the war is still here is that I started my blog 2 weeks after the war had started in Ukraine versus Russia. And so I said that because the news would probably diminish and yet fighting and deaths would continue, I would announce what's in the news that I could find on the internet each week. And here we are, year 4, and I'm still reporting on it. Who knew? It's probably the worst decision I've made. Is the bit that I don't like talking about. But here we go. Read this morning, by the way, just like most of the news. 7 dead after Russian bridges collapse as saboteurs hit Putin's rail network. A further 69 were wounded when a highway bridge collapsed onto railway tracks, derailing an approaching train in the Bryansk region late on Saturday. The railway board initially stated illegal interference in the operation of transport. A second bridge collapsed hours later with a freight train was crossing a bridge in the Kursk region on Sunday. Both bridges collapsed due to explosions. On a separate note, Russia will not agree to a ceasefire while Europe continues to fund the war. Yet, North Korea have had to sent 20,000 containers of ammunition to aid Putin's war. A couple of things there then. There's some saboteur going on. Now, I did read that they were all along the border lines, so maybe easier to cross the borders to do these saboteur acts. Horrible to hear about wounded, killing, public lines, although one is considered to be freight. God knows what that was. Maybe that was carrying munitions, who knows. Instantly, Ukraine are in the spotlight. It could be, like I say, saboteurs. That means people that try to antagonize both sides. Yeah, so not sure on that one. I do know that Trump has requested a ceasefire to become into act in June. Putin's basically said while Europe is funding it, there'll be no ceasefire. Weird, when you consider that nobody stops him from having help from North Korea. Seems like everything seems to have to be a certain way for Putin, and it has to be in his favour. I don't think he gets the concept. That's just an opinion when reading a report like I have in the news. And I have to state that the news is supposed to be impartial, but you obviously get a feeling, don't you, when you're reading it, on whether this is biased or not. My opinion is I just want the war to end, and I will always keep saying that. If I sound a bit nasally, I do apologise. I had a bad night last night and feel a little bit stuffy. Back of my nose, back of the throat, just there. Anyway, that's the war news. In the UK, well, it's all been about something that happened on Bank Holiday Monday during the Liverpool parade. They won the Premiership title. I think it's for the 20th time throughout their career. And all of the Liverpool streets were, or should I say a lot of them, were cordoned off for a bus parade, like they have in most cities for the team that wins the Premiership. Anyway, this is what I wrote down. Paul Doyce accused of using a car as a weapon. The court told on Friday, where he appeared to face his charges. So Paul Doyle is this guy who appears to have used a vehicle to plough into people while the parade was going on. 79 people were injured on Monday during Liverpool's football club's victory parade. The vehicle got past the barriers following an ambulance. Yes, it was. I heard earlier on in the week that there was a possible heart attack victim in the crowd. The ambulance therefore went through the barriers. They were lifted, and a vehicle followed behind it. This was the vehicle that Paul Doyle was using. And then later on he drove into the crowd. Now, the initial trial has been set for the 23rd of November, and there is an appeal process that you have to have, which is why it's delayed until November, because that's set in July. There are several weeks that you have to wait for appeals, and then several weeks to plan and then start the actual court proceedings. Apparently this guy is a Royal Marine in his 50s, just about approaching his 60s. I haven't read enough or listened to enough to know what he was doing. Some have reported it was a drug run or something. Seems unlikely, going through barriers where police are and so forth. But my hearts and feelings are really for all of the injured. Apparently there were no deaths, thank God, although there were little kiddies. And I read one part of the report that stated that one was in a pram. The car hit it. It span down the street, quite a few yards, but the baby was unhurt, thank God. But you can imagine the uproar that this was causing. Now, social media got involved, photographed some guy, and apparently he was in the limelight for getting this conviction against him. He had nothing to do with it. And now he's feeling he's having to move out of his house because of death threats and the media attention, which just goes to show you how social media can be such a awful thing. I mean, it's obviously a horrible thing to happen in his family. There you are, suddenly in the limelight for something you've never done. But of course, social media can be a good thing. It can convict people that other official cameras from the police don't pick up. But my God, I can imagine the uproar for this guy. He's got a family as well. Minded his own business, and suddenly his life is turned upside down. So that's pretty much the news. It was a horrible week for news for Liverpool and the rest of the world looking on all of these things that are going on. I mean, we've had awful reports, haven't we, through the years of shootings in schools and knife attacks and all sorts of stuff. And now, during a time of happiness, I've got a number of friends that are Liverpool supporters that were looking forward to this particular day, and it's just ruined by an individual. Why? You know, we always have that question, why, don't we, at the end of a lot of these things. And I came away with the same thing. Why? No idea. Let's see how that one transposes, and let's hope that we have a better week, because that was a particularly nasty week of news from what I've read out there. And now my week. So I was sort of like semi in the part of my holiday, because on Friday I went to Birmingham, which you may remember from the last blog. So and I was mentioning I was trying to get my mother to go to the garden centre. That's a running theme through this particular section for me. The weather was particularly inconsistent from Saturday all the way through till Thursday, where the weather has sort of like had an upturn since Thursday. We've had 5-6 glorious weeks, and on my week off, more inconsistent weather than good weather, if you see what I mean. And I was looking forward particularly to this holiday, one, because of what happened on Friday, which was to test that I could actually still have a day out when you consider the situation with my mother, who's very sick at the moment. And so there was one thing. And the other one is, does it make a difference not being at work when you've got an elderly mother who's very ill that still needs to have treatment? So it's my first week of doing that. And the one thing I've learned is it doesn't really make much of a difference. I still get up at the same time. My mother still goes to bed at the same time. My sister still has to go back and have her life in the afternoon. So it didn't make that much of a difference. But where there was time, just like I would be working at work, I was able to do a couple of YouTube videos. So I did some of my catching up with my friends' gameplay videos. I managed to get a couple of those out. I did another one of my trading card things. They're coming to an end now. It's not like I tried to sort of reinvigorate an old hobby. It was just I bought a load of cheap trading cards while they were incredibly cheap, because Marvel have pulled out from a particular license. And this particular license, they did trading cards, I don't know, once every 2 months, different ranges. You know, What If trading cards, Avengers trading cards, Spider-Man trading cards, annual trading cards. It was almost like every couple of weeks there'd be a new set. From that point of view, I think, looking back and taking my eyes far back so I can see the whole picture, too many of them. Too many, too often. And the price is ridiculous. I'm not surprised, really, that they've pulled out. I don't believe it's that they've pulled away for argument's sake. I think it's purely the license came to an end and they decided not to renew. Fair enough. From my point of view, it was nice to go back. Sometimes it's nice to look back and say, hey, could I do that again? And it just reaffirms it wasn't for me. It was definitely a period of time that I have great joy in my head. But, you know, not necessarily is it something that I'd like to start again. So there are several more boxes that I've got, and they'll just finish off, peter out. And at some point, I will need to show my collection. So that'll probably be the end of that. I'll show the folders of trading cards that I bought during the 90s when I was doing this. And that'll be a fun thing because you can see the final product, you know? Because I talked a lot about how many I used to buy. And when I used to buy them, that meant I used to have whole sets. Buying the ones now, you're lucky if you get a set. Do you know what I mean? Because if you buy a box, you're not going to get any. You need to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes, even to come close. And then you'd still be missing one or whatever. It's, you could be missing half, depending on the number of cards there are. I remember opening the latest set in the video that I did this week. There was 180 base cards to get. I bought 3 boxes. And you wouldn't, I think I came close to half. I'd have to buy another 3, 4, 5 boxes. And then hope for no doubles. And from that point of view, it's not worth it. But the boxes were cheap. They were about 12 quid a box. So it's not like you'd be spending an awful lot of money. About 30 odd quid maybe would get me the rest. But I could probably go on eBay and find I could buy the base set for less than £20. There are people out there that buy cases and boxes and do lots of these YouTube videos and come to the same conclusion and then just sell them at 20 pence a card or something, you know? So it's not something that I'd like to run around chasing. I definitely came away with that feeling. So we'll start off therefore on Monday, shall we? So on Monday, it's bank holiday. And that was the time where I'd been telling my mother, from Sunday, I'm going to ask you, do you want to go to the garden centre? And each time at night, I said, Mum, are you excited about going to the garden centre tomorrow? Yes. And then when she woke up, Mum, it's garden centre day. Are you still wanting to go? Yes. And we'd get her up, my sister and I, and we'd do all the breakfast bit and get her a cup of tea and do her hair, make sure she's okay, get her a newspaper. And around about 11 o'clock, I'd go, right, Mum, ready to go? She'd go, too tired, don't want to go. And I could understand it to an extent. We still don't know, my sister and I, how much sleep she gets during the night. And my mother is not open-lipped in regards to whether she's slipping in and out of sleep, getting continuous sleep, or whatever. And we've been toying with the idea that we might get a little camera and just see if she gets any sort of like restless sleep, or use one of my old phones, put it on low resolution, try it out. Trouble is, they're not particularly good at low light. But of course, it's just ideas and thoughts that my sister and I have. And it took till Wednesday to get her to go to the garden centre, but we're still on Monday at the moment. So Monday, with its weather quite poor, and my sister's still here and her watching TV with my mother, allowed me to possibly have my first film day, sitting in, watching a few films. So it's bank holiday. I didn't need to put in a physical media disc, although I could have done and probably should have done. There was a couple on TV, and they were The Alamo from 1960 and The Magnificent Seven Ride Again. And I make that clear that it wasn't The Magnificent Seven, it was The Magnificent Seven Ride Again, which is a follow-up. That's because I've been watching The Seven Samurai and a number of films that are inspired by The Magnificent Seven. And overall, I had great fun. The Alamo is a 3-hour film. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's heavy. It's heavy on history, heavy on characterization, with a huge battle at the end on this fort. I mean, I think a lot of people know what the Alamo is. And my God, the last half hour of that film is very brutal. I mean, just the way one of the main actors in this film is John Wayne. The way John Wayne, he the end of his part in the film, he fighting off the hordes that are coming into the fort, and he's carrying a torch, and he's battling away with a sword and a torch. He gets stabbed several times, right, but one guy came with a pole and stuck him straight through the chest, right through to the door that was behind him. And he snapped this off and pulled away, and you could see the pole was still stuck in the door. The door swung open, and it's a huge supply room full of gunpowder, and he's got a torch, and he knows, I think, he's going to die. So he goes into the supply room, drops the torch over where the gunpowder is, falls to the left-hand side. Next scene, huge explosion. And then you see all of the other main characters all having their individual battles. And it's like that for about half an hour. There's a scene stealing right at the end of this little girl. Obviously, there are innocents in this fort. There's a mother and two children. And they're allowed to go at the end of the battle. And she's on this horse, this little girl. She must have been about 5, 6. And she says, "Is Daddy coming?" Knowing that the mother's there going, "No, he's dead." But she keeps stum, and they ride past all of the armies that were attacking this fort, allowed to go free. And the look on this little girl, I'll never forget it, to be quite honest. It's a very, like I said, a scene stealing end of that film, with a lovely music score in it. And I thought at the end of that, my God, that was good. And literally half an hour later, it's the Magnificent Seven ride again, which was not so long, but enjoyable. Nothing in the same league as the Magnificent Seven. But the Magnificent Seven ride again was still a fun film to watch. And that was then the end. And of course, my sister has gone, and I'm looking after my mum, and I'm checking on her every half hour, which means I can't really watch films. So I'm watching individual little TV bits and stuff on YouTube. And that really is the end of Monday. And we get to Tuesday, and as I said, we did the same trick with the garden centre. We got all the way to 11 o'clock. No, don't want to go. But on that day, rain. Oh my God, the rain was bad on the Tuesday. And it wasn't flash rain like I had when my car needed to be picked up a couple of weeks back, where there was all sorts of surface water on the roads because it rained really bad for about an hour, and it had been so hot for 5 or 6 weeks. There was just surface water everywhere for that particular moment. This was just rain, constant. And I'm sure the garden loved it. Don't get me wrong, we needed it. But that then ended up being just a day of more Friends Games request videos doing, and a few bits of cataloguing doing. I've been meaning to catalogue some more of my films, and I spent a good couple of hours typing in barcode numbers or scanning barcodes to put into my collector software. So got a few little jobs done. And on Wednesday, yay, the day that my mum says, yes, let's go to the garden centre. So we went to the second garden centre in my hometown, and got her in and out of the car, walked her around, this time with a trolley. My sister was there helping. We bought some hardy plants, plants that will grow every year. So we bought some roses to replace the ones that my dad planted years ago that the fence destroyed when the fence fell over and snapped them. So that was nice. And a load of other plants, begonias, that sort of stuff. My sister was there. She knows all the names. And I bought a poppy for myself. I like poppies. You get little black seeds at the end and you can just keep growing them and growing them. And then the colours are lovely. And I used to have a poppy in my house in Manchester. And it was the only one in the whole of the street. And people used to walk past and comment on it. So, yeah, I bought myself a poppy. My bill for my plants that I bought, because I bought another bird feeder for the birds, which was a good 20 odd quid, and I bought my brother-in-law a bottle of squash, which cost £5 because it's a proper expensive shop, you know what I mean, that make specialist brands of fresh fruit juices and stuff. And I, along with the poppy, and that came to 40 odd pounds. And then I bought the bag of peat for the garden, which was £8.99. So all in all, I spent about 50 odd quid. The bill for my mum was £128 for plants. But because we've got a card for the garden club, that was where we bought the plants from, the final bill was about £110. So they knocked a good 15, 20 quid off. And that means that I was all set to do some garden stuff this week. But we're at Wednesday at the moment. The only other thing that really happened on Wednesday was that the occupational health team turned up finally with the last bit of equipment, which is a foldable ramp for a wheelchair to go over steps with to get out your house. So we've now got a ramp that you fold up, but it folds down and you can wheel a wheelchair over the ramp and down the steps. Very, very useful. Something that my sister will want to use when she wants to take my mum to a park or something when I'm working. So we got that. And then Wednesday evening, it was my chat with Ian Hill, the Ramblings. As you know, he's got a channel. Ian's a wonderful guy, big supporter of me. I'm a big supporter of him. I think some people are unfair, saying, boring, not fun to watch, blah, 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 blah. We have a great time. It's like going down the pub and just chatting about your favourite films. Those people think you're a bit cruel. If they don't like it, don't watch it. It's not for them. I never really, I don't think I've ever said in my blog, don't go and listen to these guys, because they're, this, that, and the other. Yeah. I just don't tune in. Most of the time I don't tune in these days, actually. It's time. I've got a sick mother. I've had a heart attack. I've got my own channel to look at. It's very difficult. But you'll see that there is a big chunk that I watch still. And those are still people that I've watched over the years. But I've diminished how much I've watched of them just because I can't fit it all in. It's as simple as that. Time's terrible. Really is for me. So I had a great time with it, Ian, and it was about 4 hours. 4 hours of talking. And it wasn't all about films either. It was stuff that was going on, and food and TV and music and all sorts of stuff. We had a great time. I learned an awful lot about some films that I need to watch. And I'll tell you what, that pile of films that I need to watch is just growing and growing. I don't think I'll ever catch up now. But it's great because the expansion of my knowledge of films in the horror genre, the world cinema, genre. It's just astronomical what these people know. You know, I sound out certain people's names each week, like Cy Robson and Muckman-Movies and Tony York and a number of others that, you know, they just come in and they just start talking about films that are above my station. I can tell you, I watched a lot of cinema, but my cinema is 80s, 90s, possibly early 2000s. And then but when I bought a house, everything slowed to a crawl. And the world goes on, and films continue to come out, and a huge chunk, therefore, suddenly grows in your knowledge. And as you go older, get older, your brain doesn't remember even the films that you were watching, and all of a sudden you're obsolete, really. It's the one thing that I did this blog for, was to remain in people's memories and to partake in some memories that people probably have forgotten. But as I move forward, those memories are being wiped. I'm just forgetting them. So, you know, I'm glad I'm doing my blog. And it's great to do that. And just to stop here for a moment, a bad thing I learned about, probably a little bit later than everybody else, was my friend Steve's Gaming had another problem. Now, he was cleaning up. He's a bit OCD like me, you know. Oh, what's this? What have I got this email address for? What have I got this account for? You know, and starts deleting them because they get in the way and you can't remember what they were used for. And basically it confuses the whole issue. And he was thinking about doing a second channel on YouTube. What he didn't know was, although there is a link between Google and YouTube, it's not a link that basically tells you or warns you anything. If you remove something at Google, doesn't necessarily tell you, by the way, this has an effect here, right? You have to remember this yourself. And he's had a channel for a good, he started his channel about a month after me, believe it or not. And he deleted an email account that he thought was dead. There was no emails in it. But then when he went to his YouTube channel to do a recording, his channel had gone. And then the penny dropped. He had deleted the email account that linked his YouTube account, and everything dropped. The whole lot. All the videos, everything. And this is where he started to learn just the shortcomings of having a global website like YouTube, in the fact that there absolutely is no support. You're lucky to find an email address, and most things point to a forum, which is disgusting when you consider the revenue and the money that comes in to YouTube and where it all goes. So you'd think it wouldn't just be going on programmers that basically are improving the service, or security on removing bad YouTube videos that tell you how to do bad things, you know. But he managed to find email addresses, forums. God knows how he did it. It scares me myself. And no help. So he's having to start again. So I will mention his new channel now, and then tell you the reason why I'm mentioning this, or should I say part of it. And the one big reason for mentioning it is his new channel is called Steve's Gaming Part 2, which I understand where it comes from, and it's a bit of a mouthful, and I hate that Part 2 at the end. I just, you know, but you can't call it Steve's Gaming. You can't call it Steve's Gaming Squared, can you, or something like that. So it's Part 2. But it doesn't roll off the tongue like the old one. But I'm sure he's got far more worries to go with than knowing what a title is. And he started off his channel again, and the difficulty that you instantly know when something like this happens is not only have you lost all your subscribers, and that your subscribers are in the dark going, what the hell's going on? Which is the reason for me mentioning it, because I'd like people to resubscribe if they haven't already. But you lose all your links to all the people that you've been watching over the years. So he's got to find those channels that he used to like watching. Now, this is where my blog comes in, because I keep talking about the channels that I constantly watch over and over again. If this was to happen to me, I'd still lose 2/3 of the other channels if I couldn't remember them. But I think I'd be pretty good at finding a lot of it. But he has no luxury because all his videos dropped. Even if he mentioned them, he can't go back to the videos. So a little discussion happened on Mainmeister's Discord, which, by the way, Mainmeister's Discord and my own Discord is listed in the description box here. I do recommend that if any of you have got any inclination of having a nice chat with people that I talk about, please do join the Discord. You can ignore all the alerts. It's just nice to be there, that at some point when you need something, you can just go there and ask a friendly question, because we're all friendly. But it's a massive information. So I've got one, so's Mainmeister. And a little discussion started about, what do you do when you've got nearly 1,000 videos not backed up and they all get dropped? Is there a backup service? And of course, our friend of the industry, Colin Jones, has the answer and says there is a company called Odyssey. I think it's ODYSEE, which offer a free service. It's almost like a second YouTube channel. So I'll talk about them as we go through this, because we're still at Wednesday, but it was something for Steve to look into. So that's the best sad news about Steve. We get past Ian Hill, the ramblings, and we go to Thursday. My God, it's taking some time, this. And on Thursday, I started the garden work. And you can imagine, you're supposed to do this during the winter and the start of spring. And here I am in the middle of spring doing stuff with hard soil and all sorts of stuff. And I was digging away, clearing the dead flowers out of the pots, dumping the old peat onto the ground, tilling that into the ground that I'd broken up and got rid of the weeds for. And I got maybe about 3/4 of the way up the garden, and the spade broke. The handle snapped, and it's one of those spades that's got a really nice stainless steel bottom, but it's got those pins that go through wood that are not screws or bolts, they're just pins, and therefore you can't unscrew it to put another handle in and then put a handle in and connect it to the base of the spade. So I looked in the garage, and of course we've got loads of pitchforks, forks for the ground, but not spades. So it was stupid of me. I must have left it out all over winter. The frost and everything got to it. It's weathered and it snapped. So I had to order another one. My sister then said at the same time, you might as well look for an edging tool, which is the same sort of thing. It's like a handle, like a big spade, but it's got a half moon sort of like blade that you can edge your lawn with. And those are really cheap because they don't require you to dig and till the earth. You're just edging. So I found a deal with a spade and an edger. The spade was expensive, but I didn't want cheap, and that was about £25, and the edging tool was about £8, down from £17 because I was buying the two together. And I ordered that, and that was going to be delivered Friday. Fantastic, great to have Prime for the next day. Most of the spades that were there that were not under Prime were going to be delivered on the Monday or the Tuesday next week, and that was past my holiday. So that's no good, is it? So I looked for anything that was next day and got that ordered. And then I looked after my mother for the rest of the day, and did the odd occasional weeding to just carry on up the garden without the spade. And then I go back to Odyssey. Now, I said to Colin, I'd looked at Odyssey before, and you've got to have so many subscribers for you to be able to have videos of a certain length. So if you've got 500 subscribers, say, you could upload videos no greater than 30 minutes. And they have a syncing option. Now, I said to him, it's useless for me because my blogs are 2.5 hours long. The size is not a problem because I've looked at their frequently asked questions, and it says the size of the file can't be above 16 gig or something per video, and mine are rarely above 4, but they are 2.5 hours long. I'd have to have 5,000 subscribers for me to have a video that length. And he said, he doesn't have those problems, but he joined at a time much earlier than I am, and they obviously now have changed their tier system, and there doesn't seem to be a monetary option for you to do this either. So I sent emails to customer support, and this is where I think of the customer support under Odyssey to be undecided at the moment, I'll say, because I sent a message to them saying, is there anything that they can do for me? And they said, just try syncing and come back to us. Well, it's not really a very good answer, is it? So I set up an account. I don't want to set up an account if this is a waste of time. Useless, isn't it? Set up an account, hit the sync button, and it said this will take several hours. You can close this window and come back later. And I went to, just before bed, I turned my computer off, I checked, and it said it was still going. It's fine, it'll work through the night. Because it's not linked to me, it's linked to my YouTube account, which is not even on my computer. Woke up in the morning, it's still going. And I kept checking into that day, Friday, and it finally got to the end and said, you can't have an account that syncs, which is what I thought it was going to say. So I sent an email to these guys and said, look, day and a half to get the answer that I thought I was going to get. So my question to you again is, can you help me? And they said, manually upload them and come to us when you come across a problem. Now, what you have to remember about a blog is my initial blogs, well, my first blog was 14 minutes long. And then for a good month or two, my blogs were no longer than 30 minutes. So I don't know if I'm going to have a problem because I haven't uploaded anything. But it takes 20 minutes per video to upload because it has to upload, it has to check what you've uploaded, and you have to fill in the name of the episode that you've uploaded, a description for it, what type of settings you want for users to see, etc., etc. And so therefore 20 minutes per one, and I've uploaded so far about 11. So you can imagine you could do about 3 in an hour, and I've got 415 to upload. But it's a project, and it's something that I can aim towards. and I get a store for my videos. Now I'm lucky because the very first 200 of my videos I stored onto a disc, but I still want the whole lot there. So the ones I'm doing at the moment, I have actually got a backup of, but the search system that Odyssey uses is newest to oldest, oldest to newest. So I'm uploading them in order so that they are easily found, new to old, if you wanted to watch something at the beginning of year one or the end of year one. I'm not higgledy-piggledy moving them up. I'm creating playlists as I do it. As soon as I joined Odyssey, I followed my friend Ponder. He's got four channels there, and I followed every single one of his there. So I've got a friend that I'm following there, and basically I will spend my evenings where I've got spare time uploading files and backing up stuff that could be that is so that you think was like stone and granite and would never go away, that now we realize could be snuffed out in an instant. So that's enough about Odyssey, and we move to Friday, where I said the new spade had broken. So we go to Saturday, and I did more garden work. The spade arrived, the edger arrived. The weather wasn't too bad. There was a little bit of rain, but not bad. So I've gone up one side of the garden now. As I was moving up, I was looking at the pots, and as I told you, I was taking the peat out. The last one was a terracotta pot, right? We've had it for years and years and years. Don't get me wrong. I lifted it up, and no word of a lie, the whole, it's a bowl. Part of the bowl fell out, right? Terracotta just fell out. The frost and the weathering must have got to it so bad that it just was brittle, fell to bits. So I moved it to one side and told my mother, we've got one other little problem. We're missing a pot. But I looked at the side of the garden, and there's a couple of other pots, but they're smaller. They're not big, round bowl pots. But it will do. So we don't have to go to the garden centre again, but we are going to need one in the future. And some of the pots are now, they're so many years old, they're brittle, they're cracking, all sorts of stuff. It's another little thing that we're going to need to change in a number of years' time. You're probably asking yourself, why don't you just put them in the beds, that the pots stand in? But the ground is very lime soil, very clayish, very acidic as well. As much as I keep tilling in the old peat every year, it really is just bad soil. It would take a lot of money to change that. Just like it'd take an awful lot of money to re-lawn our garden, take it all up, flatten it with a roller, put down grass in squares, 1 meter by 1 meter or whatever it is, and roll it out. It'd cost a fortune for our garden. It's 25, 30 foot long. But it's long. It's 20, about 20, 25 feet long. So yeah, it cost a lot of money. Much more fun just to patch it up and do it, because it still looks lovely when it's done. And so I did some more gardening. The terracotta pot fell to bits. I started to prep my blog, because we're talking about Saturday, and I finally got to play a game for the week. It was a sale that was on Steam, a horror themed sale, and they had this one that was in the sale. It was 30% off. I think it came to about £6. It's supposed to be at £8 or £9, and it's called Zombieville USA. And it's a little bit like Vampire Survivors, but Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of things. It's a roguelike, and what I mean by roguelike is you ultimately die, but the perks that you got, you can then use currency to take them into the next time that you play. Because eventually you will die. It is inevitable. The creatures that are there will surround you. There'll be pissy off, cheap deaths that you'll be screaming at the screen with. But the idea of the game is to have fun just wandering around, killing zombies with multiple types of guns and different types of characters. That's what it is. So I started to play this game, Zombieville USA, and I've played a couple of hours on it now, on and off, 20-minute sessions. It said I'd played about 3 hours now, and I've had immense fun. You know, I've killed zombies with grenade launchers, Molotov bottles, pistols, laser blasters, machetes, swords, flamethrowers. And you find these dotted about, and it's how long you can last. And I tell you, the zombies that are coming out, there's huge ones, small ones, fast ones, all coming at you. The town is like Smallville, USA, right? Just little shops and houses around, a graveyard, that sort of thing. With lots of shopping trolleys discarded in the car parks, all of that, blowing these things up. Isometric 3D, very, very zoomed in. You cannot see an awful lot. It's huge sprites, huge big character, 3D polygon characters, textured quite well. Just immense fun. So that's the game I've been playing. And that's the end of that. And we usually get down to the shout-outs. But I've been talking now for 52 minutes. So I better just go and check on my mum. And I'll be straight back. Won't be long. So I checked on my mum and she's all right. And we moved to the shout-outs. And like I say, thanks to everybody that shouted out, left comments, put a question. Fantastic, all of you. Make me feel wanted. Everybody should have the right to feel wanted. Anybody that doesn't want that in someone, heartless, don't want to know them. And every single one of these got a heart of gold. And so just reading these out, thanks to every single one of them. It's Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Jambon, Steve's Gaming Part 2, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Martroid, Gans Teeth, and Muckman-Movies. And it may seem like a shorter list, but remember there's people like Denny that are working nights, and other people that are also taking breaks from YouTube and all sorts of stuff. No problem. I watch what I want to watch. I don't watch it for glory, to read it out in a blog. This blog is a video diary. The video diary system means that whatever I watch, I mention. What I don't watch, I don't mention. It's nothing to do with I do this for you, you do this for me. I'm a big community person, and basically I just want people to have fun, grow, and if I feel that there's something that you guys might have missed and want to watch, it doesn't come up in your YouTube alerts, I'll mention it. So to all those people, thanks very much, and we're just going to go straight to the comments. Maybe they'll be short, maybe they'll be long, who knows. But the first one I've got here is from Ian Hill. And like I said, I chatted with him on Wednesday. He was not in a good way. He was his health wasn't brilliant, but he carried on through, and we did a nice 4-hour chat. And he's put today, "Hi Delboy, hope you and your mum are okay. Thanks as always for Wednesday live chat and your brilliant blog. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sorry, my contribution won't be as long this week. I felt terrible all week, so much pain in my right leg and loss of appetite. A swab was taken and I've got cellulitis, which, if untreated, can be very serious. So I'm now on a full course of antibiotics for 2 weeks. There will be no point in getting a takeaway on Monday for my birthday when I'm 65. I won't have any appetite or taste for food. Oh well, that's life. We'll get through it. So take care, my friend, and have a reet grand time. No, absolutely. See what I mean? What a horrible thing. Cellulitis. Never even heard of it. I know he's got problems with his legs. Happy birthday to you, mate. I'll try and remember that for tomorrow. 65, what an age to get to. You don't look 65. You don't act 65. You've got more energy than me. Absolutely fantastic. And the experience that you've got, it's just immense. What you're trying to do after your wife died, and still in touch with your son, it's just heartwarming. And it's how we bonded, really. Like, I've bonded with a number of people through the years. It's their experiences that have moved me, that has got me closer to them. It's also distanced me from certain ones. You know, it's that this is life. And you just hope that in some certain cases you've got lifelong friends. There are ones that I thought that I'd have lifelong friends with, but no, for no reason other than life, that hasn't happened. And you just sort of like learn to live with that. You get to a certain age though, and you just realize it's a fleeting time period that I'm in. I mean, I've done this now for 4 years. I've seen friends come and go. Some have stuck with me. And the ones that have stuck with me, absolutely fantastic. The ones that haven't, it's just something that's happened, and a shame. But at the end of the day, life is life. People have family. Family is important. If I get in the way of family, don't talk to me. Talk to your family. That's the way to go. They're only here for a fleeting time as well, and you need to make sure that good amount of time is stuck with them. So, you know, totally respect to everybody that I've ever spoken to, past and present. You've all shaped where I am, and that therefore isn't a blame game. It's I am like I am because of the way that I was brought up, and life experiences. And isn't that what everybody is? Isn't everybody's personality a little bit of what they are, but a lot of it is the life experiences that they've gone through? I'm fully behind all of that. So, salute, my friend. That's all I can say about yours. And looking forward to Wednesday, as I always do. Please, anybody that's watching this, do read the descriptions of some of these channels that you just watched the video of. There are links there. It'll take you to a number of my friends here that speak to me every week, and they've got some fantastic channels. So we move on to Jambon. Jambon, you must have heard of through my blogs. I must remember, it's just reminded me that after I do this blog today, I must go and book my ticket for Pinfest. That's in late August. It's one day, Saturday. I usually used to go there in the morning and get back home for 3 or 4 o'clock. That's the same time scale as what I did going to Birmingham, so it's doable. It's also right at the beginning of my holiday. I have 2 weeks off, August, September, so that suits me down to the ground. So I'll definitely be doing that and aiming for that. He's put, "Hi Del, thanks for another excellent vlog. Hope you're doing okay. Sorry for the rant, and I know you know this already, but the health and social care situation in this country is pathetic. There's nowhere near enough support for carers and the people they care for. It's extremely inefficient and results in so much unnecessary stress and harm." Can't agree more. You know what I've gone through in the last couple of weeks. The carers that we saw, lovely. The price that you have to pay, not so. Living through it as best as I can with my sister now. Continuing, I have a question, if that's okay, please. I was in Asda today and I noticed they appear to have done a deal which allows them to sell Iron Maiden t-shirts. My question is, are there any instances that stick in your mind of bands that you liked completely selling out and or becoming totally lame? Ooh, that's an interesting question. I've been to concerts, quite a few of them, and some really big ones like Band Aid that comes to mind. And I've been to no end of Elton John concerts, tons of those. I went to the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, saw lots of bands there. I've been to individual bands and concerts of soundtrack composers. What can I say about that? Because I'm not the biggest person that's gone to live stuff. There are people I've known that go to far more than me. They used to go every 2 weeks, or instead of going to a nightclub on a Friday, they'd go to see a live act. I never did that. I lived in a small town and I was 20 or 30 miles from cities where these people would play. So it was always an effort to actually sort of like plan something, you know. And I didn't drive until, you know, in a car that was a manual till just before my 20s, and I only had a license for an automatic car based on the fact that I might have needed to drive to work early on after leaving school, and the fact that I drove a few vehicles on the farm. So of course I had some licenses, but not a manual driving license. That came later. So then I found out that if I was going to go to these things, I'd have to go up a motorway and then find car parking and then try and get out of car parks to get home in the evening at night. So most of the time I'd look for something that took me by a train system. And then, of course, that's an added expense on top of the ticket and so forth. So I tended to go to something that I really, really, really wanted. And I do remember going to bands like Ultravox. I saw them. Saw Human League. Pet Shop Boys. Saw them. Number of bands. But I think the only way I can really answer this is a personal thing that's probably not what you want as an answer. And then go down the route of ones that are general. So the general one would be this. I've seen lots and lots of acts through the years that started off on things like Opportunity Knocked or Pop Idol or Britain's Got Talent and all of that sort of stuff. Stuff that you see on TV even now. And they're in the limelight. Everybody loves them when they win. They're around for a couple of years. And then their face falls off the planet. Never hear of them again. They had #1 singles at Christmas because they got a record deal at the end of it for winning or something like that. And their life expectancy, therefore, is cut short unless there is something about them that keeps them in the limelight. And there's very few of those. You know, I mean, what is there? Sam Smith. I think he came from one. Summit Lewis, Leona Lewis, is it? Don't know. Like I say, certain ones that will stay in your mind, and the others, there for a fleeting moment, dead the next. They're not talked about. That is possibly something that you're talking about, but I was never really into them. Never bought their singles. Thought that they had an okay singing voice, but it always went back to me on what something that Rod Stewart said and Elton John said as well. We crafted our music by going to pubs, clubs, singing to 20 people or less, and then branding ourselves, going from record deal to record deal to get our music out there until if we were lucky, we got discovered, and then we'd break out into foreign countries, and all of a sudden you've got stardom. These people that have never done that go into a music contest because they've done a few karaokes, obviously have a talent with their voice, have got then 6 or 7 weeks to hone that to get to the end to win, and then they're in a system that will swallow them up and spit them out as fast as they swallowed them up, because all they want is the money, the greed side of things. And they have a fleeting moment, they're 5 minutes of fame and gone. And I have to look at it like that and go, yeah, at least you build yourself up and you get the disappointment slowly over a period of time. You've got your chances. And this new system, I've never been a fan of it. So that's my opinion of that. When it comes to, say, Elton John, I can think of a song that might fit the end of your question. He did a song called Tiny Dancer. Now, anybody will turn around and say, what have you got to say about Tiny Dancer? That's a hit song. It was not a hit song. It was on the album Madman Across the Water. Came out in 1971. And basically got no airplay. I think it reached the outside of the top 40 in the States. Nowhere in the UK. And there was a number of reasons for it. A fantastic tune, but over 3 minutes. It was a 6-minute tune. It was a bit like Bohemian Rhapsody. Very hard to sell because radios want a song that's on 3 minutes or less. It's why your singles are all timed around that band of that golden 3-minute section, right? If you were slightly under, great. You were slightly over, but okay. 6 minutes, whoa, double. Not going to get any airplay. And then there's the wording in it. So in the States, it's a very big Bible belt, and it's got lines in Tiny Dancer like Jesus freaks out in the streets. Not going to be good for airplay. So you've got a song that's 6 minutes long, a language in it that's probably not going to be good for certain areas, and so therefore didn't chart. Now, a film comes along, and even before that film, people know of it because of concerts and have fell in love with it. It's re-released, and all of a sudden, hit song. About 20 years later, you know what I mean? And it's now certified as a ×2 platinum record in the UK alone. So this is where I'm saying, Tiny Dancer, you're off of your mind, aren't you? In regards to that fitting in with Jambon's question, it actually was not a hit for 20 odd years. And now it's just cemented in our minds. You know, I'm sure you're humming the song now, Tiny Dancer. It's in a film Almost Famous, and it's played at virtually all of his concerts since it came out. And the album Madman Across the Water, my God, that's heralded as his golden era between 1970 and 1975, where he had 5-6 albums instantly go to number one. Every album went to number one. I think it was, you had to get to past Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy before you got to an album that didn't go to number one. His output was very prolific during that period. I think he had 2 greatest hits out by the 1975. So yeah, he didn't exactly disappoint with the amount of tracks he put on his albums. So hopefully that's a good answer. Fantastic, great question. Thank you so much. Nice to think about that. You've put take care, mate, and all the best to your mum. All the best to you, buddy. Thanks very much. And we move to Steve's Gaming, part 2. As I said, it's got a part 2 at the end. And I've mentioned Steve. Please go and subscribe to him if you can. Let's get him back to previous glory. And he's put, "Hi Del, great blog as always. I hope you and your mum are okay and well. I won't go into details, but it's been a bit of a crap week for me. However, I won't rant, as my comment would be deleted by YouTube. And well, I really don't have much to say. So on with the questions. Question 1: what is the most utterly pointless piece of tech you've ever bought? Oh, what a question! Do you know, Steve's very deep-minded. Actually, he thinks to himself that he's got nothing to say. But what a question that is! Nobody's asked me that question before. Fantastic. And to be quite honest, I have to think hard, because everybody, and I mean, when I say everybody, it's not literally everybody, but the people that I know have bought something that they wanted to improve their life, and then when they got it back, they used it once, didn't really work out to the way it was supposed to be, and never used it again, which is therefore a pointless piece of tech. I think I'm going to go back in my mind and not talk about a particular device or piece of tech, but a time where I think people can relate to. There we are. When I was in Manchester, my parents would come up and see me 2-3 times a year, because I was by myself, alone. And my mum would like to come up and do some shopping. So it was great for them as well. So we used to go to somewhere called the Arndale Centre. It was the biggest shopping centre in Manchester. They had a big one in the centre of town, but they'd built one just out in the outskirts of Manchester. The Trafford Centre, that was it. And it was full of shops. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, I don't know what it looks like now, but if it's anything like our shopping centre in my town, it's full of nail bars now, and coffee places, and Little House. It used to have, I mean, in its heyday, it had 2 game shops and 2 GameStop shops, plus a Curry's and a Rumbelows in it, and it would have a Marks and Spencer's, and it would have Next clothing shop, and all sorts of stuff that our high streets used to be full of, and now sadly online. But it also had these little shops that would pop up every now and again. They used to be called gadget shops, and I used to walk past these with my mum when she was doing I'm going to look in here and see if I can find a handbag type thing that I'm not interested in. Nor's my dad, and my dad wasn't a techie either, so he was there sitting in the hallway, not going with my mum. He was fed up of looking at bloody skirts and tops and things, and there was no bookies or anything for him to go in and look and see what the latest horse race might be. So I'd go into something like a gadget shop or a game shop or something. I used to go in these gadget shops. They were full of just junk, but I used to spend a good half hour in there going along looking at stuff. They had pointless stuff, weird clocks, flying craft that flew round in a circle on a piece of string, little remote controlled cars that cost no more than $5, and it was full of that stuff that if you just got on your first office job, your family would buy you a Newton's cradle or something, 2 clanging pieces of bloody balls that just clanged together, or a spinning thing that had a magnet that had 2 different poles, and so it would spin round or go weird and do all this sort of like motions, or gyroscopes, that you used to pull the string on and it would balance at the end of the tip of your pencil and all this sort of stuff. And I'm pretty sure that I've been in there and bought some type of gadget that was for my desk that never even got to the office. Or I bought a clock that was powered by a lemon. Something stupid like that, right? That I thought, oh, that'll go on the mantelpiece. I'll stick a lemon in it every day and have the clock ticking along, because I like the LCD type effect of the numbers going round, which was about the only thing that was good on it, was how the numbers changed, right? Bought no end of that shit, right? And pointless, absolutely pointless. You learn a little bit, science, acid in potatoes and lemons, power, giving you an electrical current to power a clock. All very nice, good stuff. Stuff you learn at school. Pointless in everyday life. It's why we buy AA, AAA, C-type batteries. Because they're not lemons. You know what I mean? The lemons die, they're useless. And then you find out lemons cost more than batteries. So be warned. That's part one. I enjoyed that. That's a memory that I brought back. Maybe my nephew and nieces will enjoy that one. It brought my mum and dad into it as well. Question 2. Do you remember the first bulletin board you ever connected to with your Commodore 64 or Amiga? All the best, my friend, and give my love to your mum. My God, bulletin boards. Do you know, I've been meaning to do a spotlight on bulletin boards. Bulletin boards were very early on in my life, right? I've mentioned this before, but I had my VIC-20. We lived in a different street than we do now. And it was a street that also was council run. So you could buy your council house later on, by the way, which a lot of people did. But the Air Force also had a number of the houses that were bought for Air Force personnel because we lived near Upper Hayford and Croughton Air Force Base. And the person who lived next door to me was a comic book collector and a player of computer games. And he just happened to have a VIC-20. He therefore used the bulletin boards, and I was able to also go on the base with him sometimes and go to something called the BX Centre. It's where Americans can buy electrical goods and products for use in the UK. But sometimes they'd bring their own stuff over here, and they would use stepper power supplies, step downs, I think they were for the Americans. And this guy, he had a disk drive for his VIC-20, and he lived on the Air Force Base. Well, he worked on there for such long, you might as well say he lived there. I went there, and he would take me to an area where he could connect, where they connected their computers to, and he would download games and demos onto disk and take them for me to look at in his house, because he lived right next door to me. I managed to get a number of games for my VIC-20 in the early days that way, and it spanned into the very first Commodore 64 stuff, because we stayed in touch even though we moved away into the house I'm living in right now. It's only literally 3/4 of a mile to my old house. So I got a lot of games on the Commodore 64 in the early days for nothing. Bulletin boards. And I remember, I think we used to use bulletin boards on the Commodore PETs and Apple IIs that were at school. I remember we had to use commands like TCP dash hostname : port, because it would be something like port 6000, and it would connect to a service like Telnet, or I don't know, was there something called Micronet? Anyway, that was the UK side. Most of it was local. You needed to know the local addresses, which I used to get from magazines. On the Air Force Base, it was much simpler because you just connected to the central base, and you were downloading across country, a bit like the internet does, sort of like a torrent thing, but not. That's totally wrong thing to say. You hooked onto something that was abroad, but basically you could download from a centralized place, more like news groups, I suppose. Even that, though, is a wrong interpretation. Anyway, so I had great fun with BBSs, but I can't quite remember what the ones they were. I mean, I could probably join a BBS right now if I thought about it enough. I think I just mentioned the command line that I think would probably get me to something if I just knew the host name. But I don't know them. And I'm sure the internet's full of them. And I'm pretty sure that even through emulation you can join these. But on a proper Commodore 64, I'm pretty sure you can just connect right now your Commodore 64 to a sort of null modem or something that would allow you to connect. Great times though. Thanks very much, Steve. If I've got any information wrong there, please don't lobotomize me because of it. It's all from memory, and my feelings and how I think things would go. So salute, my friend. Please let's wish Steve all the best. Let's get him back up to the numbers that he used to have. But not greater than my amount of numbers, you bastard. Ain't she? Because your channel's too bloody good, you little shit. I bet you any money, actually, he's probably up to 100 subs already, and it took me nearly a year to get 100 subs. I'm still only around about 300. It's not about the subs though, it's about the fun that you have. We've been talking about that a little bit on Ian Hill Ramblings channel. Fun. If it's not fun, don't do it. So there we go. Right, we move on. Head to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. So what's he put? He's put, your mother sounds like she's still very much wanting to do things for herself, even though it's unsafe. I hope for all your sakes this doesn't continue for long. Yes, it's good. She can be active, but it's not safe. It's a worry. Send in my regards. Yeah, and we've got this sort of like stair guard thing that is a roller blind type effect. But we're having problems trying to place it. We want to put it actually at the door where the living room is and not at the stairs, because she, even though you block the stairs off, she can still then get round and go through the kitchen and get to me and all sorts of stuff. So it really needs to be the living room. And of course, this house was built in 1898. I think somebody said one of the first houses built on this particular plot of land. No later than 1901. And therefore all of the wooden front door frames are the original door frames. Now this is an extension that we're built onto here, so everything in here is in the last 20-30 years, but in the main house all of the coving, everything is from the period that it was made in. And you've got to drill in these things to get the blind to hold across. We thought about something called No More Nails, and because some of the walls are artexed, they wouldn't be therefore going into any of the door frames, and that's an idea. But then you need a spirit level, and you need two people, and all of this sort of stuff. And of course, my brother-in-law works 12-hour shifts, does those for 2 weeks on and off, mornings then evenings. It's very difficult. And therefore I'm down to myself to try and do it. And I could try, and I think I'm going to have to sooner rather than later, than have to rely on someone to do it and do it myself. But at this particular point in time, we try and keep it down to a minimum. Yeah. So that's that. I'm enjoying this series of Doctor Who immensely. I'm not going to say you'll like it, but I will advise against listening to the doomsayers, hateful people, and just wishing bad things on the show rather than let it evolve. I think I've made myself perfectly clear that I'm open to interpretation. There are a lot of people that I've known for years that have been stalwart Doctor Who, and they are basically not giving it a chance, don't want to know, or they've given it the chance and it's just not for them, and thumbs up to them, they found their way. This is the first year where I've watched, until last night, one episode out of this season. Half an episode of the second season and nothing since. But I did turn on to the last half hour last night because it was the last show of the season, and we all know from news articles that it's going to go on a pause, or possibly, and that this might be the end of the current person who's playing the Doctor at the moment. So of course I thought I'm intrigued, but I tell you what, if that is the tone of the season, is this last half hour, it was so wax lyrical, so weird as well, that it seems so convoluted. And then at the very end, wow. If this is not a gimmick, or they don't know quite how to end it and they were forced to do an ending like this, I get it. But it seems like clutching at straws, because what happened at the end, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody else, is beyond... Well, I've mentioned before where I've given Doctor Who with its new stuff okayance because it's not offended me. What I saw, or should I say what I think I saw at the end of last night's episode, before it goes into hiatus, offended me greatly. However, as people have pointed out straight afterwards, because I wanted to know what are people thinking about this now, I've got to look. Everybody is quoted. If you look at the credits, it does not say "and introducing the new Doctor and something," right? So it's open-ended again. And from that point of view, all I can say was the tone of the last 30 minutes of the show was not for me. It was like pulling teeth for me. But I can understand people that have followed the whole, all 8 episodes probably said that was a magnificent ending. Couldn't have ended it any better. And that's where I'm saying, not for me. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I want the whole collection. If that was the end of Doctor Who, I have got season 2 booked as a steel book to have. And if that was the end, I know that all I've got to do is fill in the blanks before it, and I've got the whole collection, and I don't ever have to watch the end bit again. I can look at it as something that you don't need to watch to enjoy the beauty of the early stuff. So, no harm, no foul. There is far more good than there is bad, thank God, because of the amount of years it's been on. But if it carries on the way it is, there's going to be more bad than there is good. That's bad to a show that's beloved to you. So I will say that. The reason Ryan Clark and Graham Norton were in it, and not Terry Wogan, should be obvious. Far better to use live actors than those resurrected by AI. I'll go with that. But I don't say it was obvious. Obvious because they're in the limelight and you know them now. True about the AI part of things, but then it could have been old broadcasts put together in the old days rather than use AI. That could have been done. We are talking about a character that's a holographic that's been supposed to have been resurrected or something through the many years, which means that you could have chosen anybody. You could have even have had ABBA up there introducing the 6 billionth Eurovision Song Contest, and that would have worked. Don't have to have Ryland, for God's sake. But hey, remember, no arguments here. This is just not exactly. I wouldn't have used the word obvious. But I get it. And to me, Terry Wogan fit because he was in it for longer than Graham Norton and definitely Ryan Clark. Then we're going to get a correction again. Nakuti is pronounced shooty. I never really bother with whether I get it wrong as long as I'm not offending anybody. I don't know. I know him. I know this actor very well because I watched on Netflix something called Sex Education, and he was a brilliant character on there. Absolutely fantastic. His acting was spot on, and he was a character I followed, and I wanted to know what was going on in his life. And even although he played a gay black man in that particular show, the person he was trying to go out with was a person that was bullying him. And that character that was bullying him is now in a fantastic drama at the moment called The Bombing of Pan Am 103, which is fantastic, where he plays an Irish police officer that was there during Lockerbie. It's amazing what great roles you can get out of doing these things. So yeah, Shooty, I know him. To pronounce his name, I'll probably forget it by the end of next week, and I'll still be calling him Naguti. It's the way I read it, and not the way his name's not mentioned enough to me for me to remember his name. The last book I bought was on Pac-Man. Hey, nothing wrong with that, eh? Guidebooks can be anything. I mean, I've bought no end of books on Rob Hubbard and gaming through the years, top 100 games that you must buy, all sorts of stuff. Guidebooks I mentioned was Guild Wars because that's the ones that come prevalence to mind. But of course, yes, I've bought no end of books on arcade games and their hints, tips and tricks and secrets, and all that sort of stuff. Wonderful. If you wonder how much faster Elite would be without hidden line removal, just look at Mercenary, which has none. Not what I was getting at. Mercenary is coded a couple of years later. Yes, it doesn't have hidden line removal. What I was getting at is, if you took the hidden line removal and you coded it with today's tight coding and at the same processor speed, would it go faster than Mercenary? Question mark to you, Colin. Possibly. Possibly. You don't know what programmers' tips and tricks and secrets are in there. What they could switch something else off that then takes a cycle away that then goes to the display. He'll come back, I'm sure, and turn around and say, wrong! And I don't care. What I was actually getting at, I suppose, really, was I'd like to know what Elite would have been like. Coded now, hidden line removal, those things that other things that I said added in, tips and tricks of stuff that we know now, how much better it would be. Mercenary, I don't remember any flicker, so the flicker would go. That's for definite. My question, and thank you by the way, fantastic. My question, what box set that you own has the longest total running time? I know this might not be possible in detail, so an experienced guess will be fine. Do you know what? That is such a hard question, because even though I've catalogued a lot of my stuff, I could total up the hours and minutes and all that sort of stuff and probably come with a definitive answer. But I haven't done that. I'll have to go from memory. And I'm therefore going to have to think in my memory, what have I got that's got the most series or seasons, so I don't alienate anybody on whether it's called a series or a season, because it will be TV, won't be film. Although you could say add up all the Carry On films. That's a collection of films under the name Carry On, isn't it? Thinking about that instantly, or James Bond, even put them all together. What's the running time of that? But no, we won't go with that. There was 11 seasons of Cheers. There was 11 seasons of Frasier. 10 seasons of, or 9 of 24. Columbo had 10 seasons. The Columbo films are at least an hour, about an hour and a half each. Bloody hell. Monk was 8 seasons. Stargate went for, well, I can tell you, 10. No. 1, 2. I think 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. 10 seasons. Yeah. Stargate's an hour each, 50 minutes, 10 seasons. Star Trek The Next Generation is 7. So Stargate would beat Star Trek. Same with Voyager, Deep Space Nine, the original. Starsky and Hutch is 4 seasons. I could go on and on and on. I'm going to say Columbo, I guess. hour and a half each, 10 seasons, couple of films per season there, making even season 1 possibly be 5 to 6 hours. But that's a tricky one. Thanks very much. I don't think you got the answer that you want. I'm going with Columbo. I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure of it. Probably if I added up all the 24, it would work out to be much bigger than Columbo. But a bloody interesting one. And I might one day extract my collection, put it into a spreadsheet and do a plus column and total them up. And one day I'll do that and I'll come back in with you with an answer. There you are. How's that as a job to do? Salute, my friend. Absolutely wonderful. By the way, such a nice guy. Please go and sub to him. So knowledgeable. So he's the sort of person I just want to sit down and have a pint with and say, sod the lot of you, go over there. I want to have a chat with this guy. You know what I mean? I want to talk at a level that I can finally do instead of doing it as a recorded voice in this blog. We must move on, my God. Move to my friend Martroid. Here we go. And it says, cheers, Del. I completely agree with your comments about old classic westerns, such as Fistful of Dollars. You want a bit of grit in there. Also, just wanted to compliment you on your diligence with looking after your dear old mum. Well done, mate. The world needs more people like you. Well, thank you. What a very nice thing to say. I try my hardest. When it comes to the restoration, thanks so much for listening to that. Everybody's got their own opinion, you know. I'm one of these people that know a little bit about the restoration process. I know about video, I know about film, resolution, how it's scanned, how it goes through a washer, all of that sort of stuff. Positive into negative, all that. I'm not saying I'm a genius at it. But there's some of these people that look at it and go, I just go, oh, give it a break, man. The media is in such a bad place at the moment. Just be lucky you got it, you sad git. You know what I mean? Really, sometimes it gets my goat that bad. I don't mean anything nasty by it, but my God, yeah, some people. Salute, my friend. Thanks very much, and thank you for your game choice. I had great fun with that. Always lovely to go back to. Was it the Vic 20 with you? Yeah, it was. It was Quadrant, wasn't it? Brilliant. Yeah. We move on to Gans Teeth, and he's put the Star Trek, the motion picture was a fantastic present. Yes, thank you very much, Denny. Nice to get a compliment as well on your present buying for me. Great to hear you had a great day out with a generally better week than the last couple of weeks. Yeah, each week is different. I've not had a great one or a good one yet, but I've had close to normal or average as I'd like to have. I hope things get better. I hope things keep heading that direction for you and your mum, and that's the nicest thing that anybody can say. Thank you. I enjoyed your reminiscing over The Invaders. I remember watching repeats of it around the late 80s, I think. It's got to read more. Quite a gripping show. It was. Love The Invaders. David Vincent. The Invaders. The little fingers. The turning red and disappearing with a burn mark behind. How they got their brains to the acted like clones of the real people. Marvelous. There was the bloke who played Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap. He did a reimagination of The Invaders that even had David Vincent for the original from The Invaders in it at the end. It was sad. It was poor. That was the 90s. People I'm pretty sure don't talk about that. That was a mini-series. I think it was split in 2 parts over in the States. I think it got a video release, a DVD release. And I don't think there's anything past DVD on that. Yeah. The Invaders. Quinn Martin, though. I love all the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I love the streets of San Francisco, The Fugitive. Oh, such a huge chunk of my childhood just there. And the music by Dominic Fontier, brilliant. Um, the Outer Limits is probably my favourite of his music cues that I have, but the Invaders still sticks out. Best theme between the Outer Limits and the Invaders. The Outer Limits always came across to me like a fanfare. Da 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 da. You know, rather than da, 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 you know, which is a like an alert, like an ambulance. It's like ringing in your ears, you know, and then you have that menacing, you know, it sounds, I'm not doing it justice, but go and listen to the two, and they are stark differences. Thanks, Gans Teeth. My thanks to you. And we get to my friend Muckman-Movies. What's he put? It's probably another rant at me. Hi, Delboy. Just some nice pickups there. I recall A Knight's Tale was a bit of a sleeper hit. Great fun. Just seen Mission Impossible Final Reckoning this morning and thoroughly enjoyed it. More so than Dead Reckoning. I've heard some criticism on the first hour being very slow and having too much exposition, but it didn't bother me. In fact, I thought it helped clear up a lot of the convoluted ambiguity. Is he trying to kill me with a dictionary this week? Anyway, Cruise still seems to defy his age and is incredible, whether he's underwater or in the air. Can't agree more. Absolutely fantastic comment to make. I'm looking forward to seeing the second part. I did enjoy the first part. Cruise, just like you said, defying his age. The guy is just, you know, I mean, when you consider that he does a lot of his own stunts, in fact, all of them possibly. I haven't looked that closely into it, but I know that 95% he does. Clinging onto planes, all sorts of stuff. My God, the man's defying his age. In his 60s now, just possibly. Oh my God, wouldn't see Harrison Ford doing that, would you? Green screen, possibly, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That's not taking away anything from any actor that's not feeling comfortable. Don't do it. But it's nice that we've got somebody that we can look at that doesn't use tricks. Only the tricks that the camera allows you to do. So different to AI in that retrospect. And that's the end of the comments. I hope that's okay for everybody. Absolutely stunning. Thank you very much for all of that. Again, we're heading really into extra time on this. Might have to cut this down a little bit, but I need to check on my mum, and I will be back shortly. It will seem like seconds to you. And I'm back, and I'm looking at this, and my God, it's like a marathon. We'll do the watched on YouTube stuff now. This is the stuff, the section where I've watched stuff. As you know, the first four are what I always watch: This Week in Retro, Tecmo, Gadget Show, Chronologically Gaming. This Week in Retro, always a steady point for me on a Saturday. Three subjects: It's a Fake, 80s Rock Stars Revisited, and You Space Cadet. I remember most of that. It's a Fake, terrible thing about AI and books. I'm not going to tell you about everything. I think you ought to go and watch it. It's definitely good. Neil's not there. I feel his presence not there, but it's still a great watch, still great and informative. Techmoan, he did something that wasn't on the Saturday. It was in earlier the week. It was the Wand Company's Star Trek tricord replica. I've seen this replica before. It's from a year or so back. He's just been sent one. It was great for him to show it off. I'd still love one. Bloody expensive. So it just wouldn't fit anywhere. I've got nowhere I'd put it. It needs to be shown and displayed and all that sort of stuff. So lovely to see a YouTube channel show something like that off. The Gadget Show, they're working on projects at the moment. It's been cleared up with me by Colin Jones, plus a disclaimer from them. I wish them well. Hope they come back soon. And Chronologically Gaming, what a bad day for him. His PC died a death. Luckily everything is all saved, but he's got to build another PC, so he's out of action possibly for this week. Hopefully he'll be back next week. I am a member of his Discord. I will check that. I'm just wishing that it comes back as soon as it can, but I do know that putting the software on and making it stable, all tricky stuff. It's not stuff that's done really quickly. Plus you need the money. Make sure that you got enough money to buy a PC to do this. So, and it was his motherboard that went. So, yeah. Shame. I looked at something from Big Finish that did Doctor Who stuff. It's called Big Finish Production. They had Colin Baker and Bonnie Langford on answering listeners' questions. That was interesting. I'd heard a lot of it before. I've met Colin Baker. I've been at his questions and answers at conventions. There wasn't anything really too out of the ordinary, but it's always a fun watch. Near Mint Condition, which is a channel I've followed for, well, you're hearing how many years he's been around. I haven't been around quite that long looking at his stuff, but Near Mint Condition does reviews of omnibuses, comic-related stuff, games, films, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of that sort of stuff. 9 years on YouTube celebration he did this week. Fantastic. 9 years. Hope you have 9 more years and more. Omar, absolutely fantastic. That's his name, Omar. Brilliant. Watch Mojo I watched this week as well. The top 20 80s movie flops that got popular again. I don't usually look at too many of these top 20s. They don't agree with what I put, but there was a number in there that I'd say, yeah, they were top 20. They definitely weren't popular. They lost money. They came popular. Blade Runner is one of those. He mentioned that Big Trouble in Little China was a flop. That got cult following. The Thing, for definite, is highly regarded, and I've got at least 15 copies of that film, and it was a flop when it came out. All those sort of stuff you can't disagree with. There's other stuff in there, Monster Squad and stuff, that I could, say I could probably put other films in its place that were bigger flops and became more popular. But hey, you learn something new in these things. There was a channel I saw as well called Free Movies. This one was a documentary, Elton John movie Man full film. It was an hour and 10 minutes long. It was brilliant. There was some stuff in there I'd forgotten about, but new. So, but it was just a fun watch to watch. And then there was a brilliant documentary, again, reaffirming stuff I knew already, but was still instantly likable. It was from a channel called Little Car, and it was called Pet Rocks, the Commodore PET story. And if anybody knows the Commodore PET and the Apple IIe's at school, some of the first computers I ever went on. I'd been on consoles before that, Pong, but they were the computers of choice at school, and they were my programming days. Absolutely fantastic. All of that stuff, if haven't come up in your alert box, definitely recommend those. Now my section, film, TV, and soundtrack on YouTube. Starting off all the time with Ian Hill, The Ramblings. And my God, for somebody who's not very well, listen to this. My top 5 comedies, 1947 to I think it was 54, if I remember rightly. My Star Trek Collection Part 3. Doctor Who Resurrection of the Daleks review. Fantastic episode, that one. X-Files Season 4 Episode 5 review. SFX June 2025 review. So he reads the magazine, SFX, reads it with us. Gives a good overview of what that was, and he did a live with me on Wednesday. What more can you ask for from this guy? My God, man. Get well soon. Subscribe to this man. My God, he does so much. You're not going to be short of something to watch each week if you subscribe to him, and it will be of stuff that is film, TV, magazine related. Fantastic. Mondo-Movies, who I call horror royalty. Fantastic. He did his top 10 4K banned video nasties part 2. I remember part 1, it was a while back. I did rewatch part 1, but it was part 2 this week. Loved it. That was great. Like I say, keep doing your stuff, man. Fantastic. I learned so much from you. Playtendoguy did a discussion, which I agree and disagree with. Not the discussion point subject. It was AI and the worrying future of movies. And that is a fantastic title. It is a worrying time. Some of the things he disliked about AI, I wouldn't necessarily say I worry about too much. There was things that he mentioned. Let me see if I can give you an example. Yeah, so, okay. In the 70s, there was a story about the orchestras of the BBC's going on strike because synthesizers were doing them out of a job. Wherever an orchestra could be used, a synthesizer could be brought in, and it was taking their jobs away. Is that similar to AI? Well, there was a part of the subject that was talking about like an auto-tune thing where the actors' voices were altered slightly to make them more dialect correct for the country they live in. Yeah, I think that actually is not a bad use of AI. It doesn't take away anybody's job. They've got dialect coaches, but they've got time restraints. Could another actor have done it? Yes, but that's taking an actor that you'd like and changing it for an actor because their speech is correct and they might have other defects in their acting that would not be as good as the person that you chose to be the character in the film. So it's round and roundabouts with that one. But everything else pretty much I agree with. We have to understand here that Hollywood has used tips and tricks for years. In North by Northwest, they used to do top-down shots of Cary Grant going into a building, a well-known building, and then he'd end up in the foyer. But that would have been a matte painting with a sort of like black dot, or of him going across and into the foyer, shooting then in the actual foyer, or a replica of it. Is that also sort of similar to AI, because you're not using a helicopter to do an aerial shot of the actual top of the building, doing something going down, where you've actually hired an artist with a pane of glass to paint the lines to make it look like as close to that building, but not the actual building. If you took a job away from someone that does aerial photography, yeah, you have, but you've hired someone to do the artwork. AI, where it doesn't work for me, and this is where I totally 100% agree, it's taking a job away from somebody, total, and having the computer do it all for you, apart from one person that's typing the code in, right? I don't agree. Everything in his discussion, I'd say 80% I agreed with. 80%. I mean, it's a huge. If you went and did an exam and you came away saying 80%, you'd say, "Wow, you did well." And that's where I look at Playtendoguy. We don't all have to agree on certain stuff, and AI is one of those tricky subject matters. And I do not want AI abused. I do not want to see Parkinson as a computer-generated character and AI using his voice to do re-interviews with Muhammad Ali, who is also dead, to see how a conversation would go between the two. No. All of that wrong. Don't want that. That's a load of shit. I don't want all this AI stuff that I see in social media as well, of cats singing bloody songs in high-pitched voices and babies with their mouths moving with the voice of the actors coming out the baby's mouth. No, don't want any of that shit. Sorry, don't. Simple as that. Rant over. So Playtendoguy, great guy, fantastic guy, big friend of mine. Go and see his channel. Pickups, movies, chats, everything. Fantastic. Did you see that? Is also what I watched this week. He did his Karate Kid Legends review because there's a new Karate Kid movie out 2025. And he did a random live stream, which I watched as well. Fantastic. We move on to Muckman-Movies, who did a Godzilla vinyl record unboxing. Yeah, I like those. I should do more shorts myself. Always nice to see a soundtrack get an unboxing. You don't see many of those too much. And he did his May 25 pickup. So all the films he bought in May 25, mostly manga this time. But still interesting. And some other stuff in there, like The Last Valley, I think was mentioned in there. A few others, which I recognise. Fantastic channel. Muckman-Movies, a must watch. And Jim Jam Movies, who I met last Friday. He did in Birmingham with Denny and me, and he went on his whole holes while I was off on holiday, and he did a 31st of May holiday break pickups. So even when he was on holiday, he was picking up from keks and charity stores. Wonderful guy, absolutely fantastic. We're down to the last bit, Game Tech on YouTube. We have got some of my favourites listed down here, down the rabbit hole. My God, man, look at what he's done. Jules fixes the issue with Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie. Jules is another TV or film, and it fixed an issue that he's had with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's to do with the end of the spaceship. Yeah, I can see that, what he was talking about. Definitely worth a watch. He did a PSVR 2 a Garden of the Sea sort of review. He just mentioned I would have done it different. And I can understand what he was talking about. He was saying it's a great game. It looks great. He had fun with it. 10 hours in. It's just that there doesn't seem to be a progression. There doesn't seem to be something that says you need to go here or here now to move forward. Other people have commented on there saying, well, maybe you missed something. Quite true. But I have to agree. Sometimes we used to be handheld too much. Now sometimes you go the opposite way. You're not handheld enough. And it can become daunting or boring and you don't know where to go next. And if you left it for any length of time and came back, you'd go, might as well start again. Can't remember. Yeah. I said it looked very much like Dredge, a game called Dredge on Steam, which I love. I love the game Dredge. And it looks like it was in VR. So it's got my spider sense tingling on something I might buy myself. And he also did a little extra to an earlier video he did about a week ago, where he built a little desktop arcade machine. And he found out that there was some ways of getting a paddle to work on it. Paddle and spinners are some of the hardest things to try and get to work on any emulation system. But he found a little company. I think they make the same machine because you build this thing. And you put it into an enclosure and it connects via the USB port on the back, which means that you've still got the original controllers, but you've got a little handheld, sort of like a controller in your hand, but it's got a spinner on it. And that means you can play Arkanoid and Avalanche and Outrun and all sorts of games. And for the price of about 40-50 quid, you've got yourself a fantastic little system. Very jealous of him, you bastard. Just my little joke. He's called Down the Rabbit Hole. Definitely worth a sub from you. Robert's Retro Gaming, or Canada Atari Gold, as I call him. My God, what's he done this week? No Man's Sky episode 42, Dwarf Fortress Classic episode 3, Dwarf Fortress episode 23, ZX Spectrum Exelon gameplay, Atari 2600 Alien gameplay, which is a bit like Pac-Man, but it was still worth a watch. Atari 8-bit games, Mediator, Landscape, and Chopper Hunt, which is a bit like, what's it called? Bullions something. I played it in my friend's game requests, and it was from him, by the way. And it was a brilliant game. They re-released it with some enhancements. Definitely go and see Roberts. My God, Steve talks about him like there's nobody's business. Like virtually every video he does, he goes, "My mate Robert," and Robert goes, "My mate Steve." I reckon they were separating at birth. Where's my mate Dell? Not a problem. Fantastic. Love it. Bruv love. Gotta love that as well, ain't you? Then we talk about my mate Steve's Gaming, who I just talked about just now. Steve's Gaming Part 2. Please hush my mouth. Trying to build his channel back up. He did a channel info video to say what was going on. Home soft discs, discs 59 to 61, so you got 3 of those. BBC shorts. Started off numbering them. He called them shorts number 1, but then started giving them names. So I put 1 to 3. I can't really sort of like split the 2 up. Much easier for me to put a number. But he's now going to put names. I fault him with that. And even while I was doing this blog, he's released a Commodore 64 one. So absolutely fantastic. Great guy. Bad luck aplenty. Let's get him back to former glory, shall we? Absolutely brilliant. Salute, my friend, and we moved to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, who did his blog this week, and I felt sad because I didn't actually get to write something to him this week, just before his blog went out. It's just time is against me with my mother. I felt really bad. I'm definitely going to find time to go back over some of these things and put some questions and stuff in. Fantastic. Definitely got to go and read it, listen to his blog. But he also did his main Meister high score kerfuffle. He's doing over the next 2 weeks Galplus. It's like a Galadin type thing. Very, very good. Definitely worth your time. NFC, Gamer and Vlogs. He's been a busy chap, my God, right? As soon as he gets onto an idea, he's cracking them out like there's nobody's business. So he did his vlog on the 30th of the 5th, so it was just a couple of days ago. But then he did 23 Sid chip bangers. Well, I got 23 videos, man. I mean, Jesus, steady on a minute. Christ. I listen to these things when I'm going for a walk. I'd have to go for a walk for the next week and a half to get through that lot. Absolutely marvellous. A great guy. So funny. Light-hearted. Doesn't let things... he does his little rants to get things out of his system. Best way to do it, YouTube. Get your rants out. And just have fun with it. NFC had a great fun that. 20th Century Gaming. Such a nice guy, Mark. Known him for a while. He is absolutely fantastic on games that I just think are astronomically hard. Just can't do it myself. He did a bunch of Icon 64 games that he just wanted to demonstrate, and he bought a new game this week called Tyrion's Towers, which is a bit like Crystal Castles. He did 2 streams of this. He loves the game so much. He's got to about level 12 by playing, 7, 8 games of it. That's a pretty good average. 8 times at trying to crack the game, got to level 12. I think he got to level 5 on his first go. That doesn't make it an easy game. It's just that he knows what to expect and can adapt fast, which is what I can't do very well. And my mate Alan Mainmeister, who I always put last, but basically he's first when I'm watching something, right? Usually if he's doing a live, I could miss it. But if it's a video, I'm there. I'm all over it. He did a live stream on Sunday. He did a live stream of Sid Play on Wednesday. And he did a Friday waffle recorded while he was going to his girlfriend, which is always enjoyable to watch, to know what's going on in his week, to know what his mind is like at the moment. It's just like my blog in a way, but far more in depth in certain specific areas that he's been thinking about or talking about. And that is the end of all the comments. So normally what I do now is I show you what I've bought or what's arrived this week. So we'll do that quickly. I'll take another break because then if I've got time, I'll show you the trailers. So we'll go to overhead cam. There we are. Look, woo! And this came from World of Books. I forgot I hadn't got this in my collection. I enjoyed it when I watched it on Sky. It is called Goodbye Christopher Robin. I mean, I know the work of R.R. Milne. I did listen to Christopher Robin when I was a child. It never engrossed me like, say, Tales of the Unexpected did, you know. So, you know, with books like Denny, the Champion of the World, and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But Christopher Robin was a great character, and this tells the story of his son that he based Christopher Robin on. Called him Billy, I think. It was during World War One, leading into World War Two, the creation of Piglet, and basically the lad grew up in some ways resenting his dad because it was supposed to be a special thing between him and his father, and turned it into a book, and then the whole world knew about it, and he was going off into war. So a good story, a good based on a true story. Dramatization things aplenty, but good. Starman Steelbook. Now I bought this in the Columbia collection, so I'm not quite sure why I bought this other than it's a steelbook, so it's nice. The Starman is not forgotten, but not talked about in John Carpenter circles very much. It is science fiction. It did actually come out with a TV series, which is also in the Columbia collection and not in this steelbook. And it's got a fantastic score. And when I remember going to the cinema to see Starman, and basically I thought it was going to be a little bit like The Man Who Fell to Earth, which had David Bowie in it. Starman didn't end up being that at all, and it was a stellar performance. Jeff Bridges is great. Karen Allen knocks it out the ballpark in this. You could call it E.T. for adults in a way, but there we go. One that I forgot to cancel. Really, I didn't really want this in my collection or didn't need it. It's not my favourite. It didn't engross me too much. I watched it earlier week as a digital copy. I remember ordering it, never cancelled it. And that's Terrifier, the bloody duo. It is basically Terrifier and Terrifier 2 in the same steelbook. Terrifier 2 I liked more than Terrifier 1. It's an okayish horror slasher flick. Seems to be a lot of high pressure blood in these veins. That's one thing I will say. This then turned up from Warner Brothers in their nice little packaging. I know a little bit about this. Muckman likes it. It's called Mickey 17. I need to get round to watching this. It had a lot of press when it came out. As a steelbook, it's nice. Look, there we go. Nothing wrong with it. Bit lackluster, just a picture. Shiny, nice. But, you know, glad to have it in my collection because it's a film that if I fancy watching something new, I've got something to watch there. This came from World of Books. I forgot all about it till I was looking at stuff by Patrick Troughton. It's called The Feathered Serpent. It was a TV show for kids in the 1970s. It ran for 2 seasons. Patrick Troughton knocked it out of the park. He's an evil pharaoh type character. You can see it set in that sort of era. It's Mayans, I think. So glad I got that. It was very cheap, couple of quid. And at the same time, for about £1.50, I got a dramatisation from the 70s that was on the BBC, which was The Six Wives of Henry VIII. This has got Patrick Troughton as well in 5 episodes of this, as was in the Prince of Norfolk, who was mostly in the court when Henry VIII was getting rid of his wives. He definitely had a play in there. An hour and a half per wife, so quite a lot of episodes and a lot of time to watch. And then probably the best of the week, the Arrow restoration of For a Few Dollars More, which goes with my A Fistful of Dollars, 4K. We just got The Good, the Bad and the Ugly to go. No problems with getting this. I ordered it and it arrived, unlike the first one, which was cancelled and I had to look around. I'm hoping The Good, the Bad and the Ugly comes through in the same way. If you don't know it, For a Few Dollars More, it's the spaghetti Western trilogy by Leone. Fantastic director. Ennio Morricone did the music for all 3 films. Fantastic scores, well beloved. Some tracks in there you'll be humming all the time. So I'm going to go back to new camera. I'm going to have a little look. I think I might just get the trailers in, but I've got to set it up. So please give me a couple of minutes and I'll be back. So everything's all ready. Got the trailers already. This is stuff that has arrived this week or I watched on my film night. Hope you enjoy them. Might encourage you to go and watch them yourself or even be interested in physical media. That's my hopes. We'll go to media playback. I'm going to turn the mic off and hopefully you enjoy the trailers. See you on the other side.
You know Baby Kavanaugh? Tell me, you know where I can find him?
He's got his back here.
Alive or dead, it's your choice.
Let Red go.
I'm letting you leave here. That's so you can tell everybody you've seen what takes place here.
I'm looking for a first-class bank. The largest and most secure bank in the territory.
To try robbing us would be so futile that only a complete fool would attempt it.
Or a complete madman. How many men last long in these parts? How long do you expect to last? When 2 hunters go after the same prey, they usually end up shooting each other in the back.
He's nothing but a wild, vicious animal.
One of us will have to join Indio's band. Naturally, you'll have to arrange for his, release.
Who said I was joking?
That contraption almost sent you to your grave.
When the chimes end, pick up your gun. Try and shoot me, Colonel.
Bravo.
Once upon a time, there was a great war that brought so much sadness to so many people. Hardly anyone could remember what happiness was like. But something happened that changed all that.
His name is Christopher Robin, but we generally call him Billy.
A toast. C.R. Milnes.
C.R. Milnes.
It helped us to believe in the good things.
Which one would you like?
This one.
Yeah, same height, please.
Go.
The fun things.
Who's your favourite?
I'd have to go for the little one.
Piglet.
Has to be Piglet.
And a world full of imagination.
Are we writing a book? I thought we were just having fun.
We're writing a book and we're having fun.
And then, just like a tap you turned on, happiness came pouring out.
In 1977, Voyager 2 was launched into space to the outermost regions of the universe. It carried an invitation in all languages for alien life forms to visit our planet. Someone, somewhere, listened and accepted our invitation. Get ready. Someone is coming. Someone like no one she has ever known before.
Can you clone a living organism from the hair of a dead man?
We're hypothesizing a technology that's probably 100,000 years ahead of it.
He has powers we cannot imagine, and the face and touch of the man she loved.
I send greetings. What's the matter with you?
How much English do you understand?
I understand greetings in 54 planet Earth languages.
Do you seriously expect me to tell the President that an alien has landed, assumed the identity of a dead house painter, and is presently out tooling around the countryside in a hopped-up 1977 Mustang?
You're not from around here, are you?
Think of what it would mean to talk to a being from a civilization like that. Think of what we could learn.
You don't understand. There isn't much time, please. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. Can't you just leave him alone?
What the hell ever happened to good manners? We invited him here.
So far to come, so much to do, so little time to fall in love. Look up. Company's coming. John Carpenter's Starman.
It's here at last, the monumental history-making motion picture, 14 years in the making, the $12 million epic, The Alamo. Starring John Wayne as Colonel David Crockett.
He's still on his feet. Oh, no. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, and it's my turn. Well, thanks, friend. If you don't insist on having them to yourself, I'll give you a hand.
Pleasure, friend.
You must be Jim Bowie.
Excuse me.
Richard Widmark as Jim Bowie. Lawrence Harvey as Colonel William Travis. And guest star Richard Boone as Sam Houston.
Where's Jim Bowie?
He's indisposed, sir.
Indisposed? By God, if you mean drunk, you say drunk, sir.
He's drunk, sir.
Frankie Avalon as Smitty, youngest of the Alamo defenders.
All you need is a little Dr. Beekeeper's fix-on.
See?
Davy, what's going to happen to us? I mean, to you and me.
I'm gonna tell you something, Flacca, and I want you to listen tight. When I come down here to Texas, I was looking for something. I didn't know what. There's right and there's wrong. You gotta do one or the other. You do the one and you're living. You do the other and you may be walking around, but you're dead as a beaver hat.
All occupants of the mission will leave at once. If this order is not followed with dispatch, there will be no quarter given.
I hate to say anything good about that long-winded jackanapes. But he does know the short way to start a war. 185 men fighting to their deaths against a horde of 7,000 in the most savage hand-to-hand combat in history. Filling the giant theater screen with spectacular adventure, filmed on a scale unequaled in motion picture history, recreating the 13 glorious days of the siege history will never forget, and you will always remember the Alamo.
I nearly forgot there to put my mic on. But yeah, 3 hours, The Alamo. Very character driven, very emotional at the end. Great film. Lots of speckles you saw there. Could do with a definite restoration. There probably is one. Need to look into that. We've had a lot of restoration work done just recently. On things like how the West was won and all that sort of stuff. So, once upon a time, you know, in the West being a definite. So, with that, I'm going to leave you and hope you have a great one for the rest of your weekend. Back to work for me tomorrow. Like I said, the week I had off enabled me to do a few things for YouTube. When I go back, it will be back to where I can fit it in. But I'm really looking forward to doing more game stuff, definitely more film stuff. Been a long time since I did a film review, and I've been watching some films just recently, so I'm itching to get back into that. And with that, I'm going to say salute. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this, and hopefully, you know, give it a like, tell people, subscribe even, who knows. But there'll be one next week. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.